Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. I am your Saturday night. Welcome to your Saturday night. Hopefully, everyone can see. I have captions on, so hopefully you can see them. If you can't see them, or if they aren't available, feel free to let me know, because that's just going to help everybody else out. It's going to help all of us in general to know what's going on. Oh, and here I am. Hopefully the sound is good. Please let me know if it is or if it isn't. But what are we here to do today? We are here to paint. So we've been working on this particular piece now actually for a few weeks. It's a really big painting. I've been having a lot of fun doing it. And it's changed so much from where we started. This has changed so much. This dreamer in the grass, this person just having their happy little dreams, lying in a grass. This is really a very summer painting. You know, it's even like the mood, everything about the vibes, the mood, the feeling. This is all very summer. This is all very, I don't know, kind of bright and optimistic. But we got a lot of things to do with it. We got a lot of things to do. I don't have a name necessarily. Like, I think I've played around a couple of times with a name for this piece. But I don't have one. I don't have a name. Don't have a name for the piece. I don't even... Like, this isn't even my normal style of painting. So we have, like, a lot going on. It's all new. It's all different. It's all interesting. It's all fun. And fun, well, I guess that's subjective. But truly and completely, this piece is something unique. It's something beautiful. It's something that allows me to get outside of my own comfort zones, to really explore and play and get involved with my own thinking. And that's one of the things I'm doing. So I'm going to start actually with a very specific color group here. And I'm just going to go over it with you really quick. Let me grab one of my brushes. So what I actually have here specifically is I have an amber brown, I have a phthalo blue, I have a kind of a standard white, I have this apricot, and then I have this ochre, this yellow ochre. So these are some of the colors I'm going to be initially using. So this is the yellow ochre over here, actually. So yellow ochre, this apricot, this kind of standard tube white, this phthalo blue, and this amber brown. And these are the colors I'm going to be starting with as I start to make this piece a little more textural and interesting. I realize, like, the background, I have a lot started back there, but I don't have a lot finished. But that's part of what we're doing, part of how this is going. So there's a lot of this which has stuff going on, and there's a lot of this. Like, this person has actually come tremendously far from where we started. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be starting right off. I'm going to grab this smaller round brush here. I don't know what size this is off the top of my head, but I have a smaller round brush, you know. So we're going to be getting that, and I actually just take a little bit of this amber brown here. And one of the things I'm going to be doing to start with, now this is a semi-transparent paint, but one of the things I'm actually going to be doing to start with is working in some areas which should have a little more shadow. Now this is not obviously where we're ending with this, but you know, this is just something so that I can start to build back in more of my contours, my shadows, my shades, not shades, But, you know, all of that. Darken in where the eyebrows will be. It goes without saying, like, the eyebrows, those aren't eyebrows yet. Those are just where the eyebrows will be, but there's a lot of building that's been going on. And as you can see, like, this amber brown, it's wonderful. It's not too dark. It's not too harsh. It's semi-transparent, so it's not really covering up what I've been building. But it is pretty easy to work with in a lot of ways. But there's a lot of work to do on this piece. And there's areas that need attention. Very specific amounts of attention. While I'm doing this, let me just talk to you all for a moment. Depending on where you're joining me, whether it's on Twitch or YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitter, welcome. And I'm very glad that you're here. And no matter where you're joining me from, please take the time, if you'd like, to say hello. And also to let us know where you're joining from for this art night. And I've managed to get so far along without actually saying this, so let me just go ahead really quick and, talk a little bit. So this is actually just a little bit of blending here. Just talk a little bit about the stream. So, as I already said earlier on, there are captions available should you want them or need them. There are... Ooh. I'm already having, just this moment where my mind is forgetting what I'm saying. But that's okay. That's okay. We are fine with that. We are in my studio space. And actually, we are in my slowly getting modified studio space. And there's a lot I need to say about that, but I've been making the move as far as, where I paint and where I stream. I've been moving steadily from my living room to one of the bedrooms here. I am lucky enough to actually have an extra bedroom, and it has started to become my studio. Now, I don't take for granted that not everyone has the luxury of things like, an extra bedroom. That's not something that everybody gets. We're not all so lucky. But I do consider myself very lucky to have this space in my home. And I don't just consider myself lucky to have this space, I consider myself lucky to be able to utilize it in a very creative and fun way. I've been an artist for a fair amount of time in my life. But I've always kind of had to do a bit of borrowing, as it were. And let me be a little more specific about what I mean. So, oftentimes I would find myself in a position where, in order to be able to work, I had to kind of borrow off myself to have space. And what I would do is I'd get what art done I could, but then when either the project or whatever was to a point where I had to stop, what I actually had to do is I had to break everything down and put it all away. As you can imagine, this actually makes a lot of my work very difficult to do because I'm always breaking it down and putting everything away. And that's a hard position to find yourself in. Because I just never was able to leave anything up or feel like I was making progress in certain things. You know, I don't know, that's probably the best way I can put it. I have a lot to say, a lot I'd like to say, and a lot that sometimes is really difficult to find the right way to say. But I do my best. I do my best with what I have, what I'm lucky enough to have been given. And I already have a lot to do on this. So much. I'm going to ramble a little bit for a minute. As I kind of fill in some of this. But I do have a lot I need sometimes to get off my mind. As a creative individual, as an artist, as a maker, you know, that's a really hard thing to actually find a right word for. I think I've expressed this before, but I really don't like the word like creator or content creator because it has a very specific context in our day and age, but at the same time I fulfill a lot of the purposes, or I fulfill a lot of the criteria to be a content creator. Getting some of this apricot worked in here because I have a bunch of stuff to do. One of the things I have to do is actually start smoothing out some of these textures. So I'm doing that now. But let me just go ahead. I don't want to really lose where I am or what I'm talking about. There are moments where I feel antiquated, where I feel a lot less connected to the now than a lot of my contemporaries and my peers. And this has been really difficult in so many ways for me. Because I know that I am not what most people get online to see anymore. And it's not because you're not looking for it, it's because that's not what the algorithm leads us to anymore. It's not what we've come to expect. But I have a lot on my mind. I don't know where to start. I don't know where I'd go. I don't know how to say everything I want to say. But what I do know is that sometimes I get myself really frustrated. I get myself really frustrated because I sit there and I think like, well, maybe I should just change my tactic. Maybe I should just learn a new art style so that I don't feel so out of touch. But then I remember, like, this isn't a comparison game. This isn't a contest. I don't have to do what my peers are doing. I don't have to compare myself to what they're doing. I don't have to think, oh, if only I did this, if only I did that. No. That's not helpful. It's not helpful for my sense of self. It's not helpful for my self-esteem. It doesn't advance my skills. It doesn't make me a better artist. To think, if only I was like this person, if only I was like that person. We're not measured in any way that sometimes we think we're measured in. And let's be fair, we all think that we're being measured in some way. And we are, in a lot of ways, being measured against something. But the person that measures us more than anyone else is us. We are the biggest problem when it comes to how we feel. And that's just that. That is just that. That is our individualized truth. We end up in a position where we just... I don't know the best way to describe it. Where we overanalyze and over-criticize ourselves. Where we put these giant benchmarks up and we say, we have to be here, we have to be there. Why am I not here? Why am I there? What am I doing? Sometimes I wonder just that. What am I doing? What am I doing, and should I keep doing it? Is this making my life better? But then another part of my mind comes into play. I would argue a extremely important part of my mind comes into play. The part that reminds me that some things are not meant to be for a specific purpose. Some things are meant just to be what they are. Some things are meant to maybe give us a smile. give us something to look forward to. I would say some of those things are more important than whether or not there's a real purpose. And let me clarify. The word purpose actually, I think, is inappropriate for some things. Because lots of things in life have purposes, but not all of them need to have these big, impactful purposes. Like these things that are super specific and meaningful. Some things are just meant to be what they are. And my painting, my art, it's what it is. And what it is something that brings me joy. Do I wish I was some big, well-known artist? Sometimes. Do I think that I would be able to handle being some big, well-known artist? Let me just tell you right now, I do not think that I can handle that. In fact, I'm pretty sure that being incredibly well known would be a lot for me to deal with. Too much, perhaps. There are times when I begin streaming and I wonder, does anyone really care about this? About what I do? Other times where I think, who cares if other people care? I'm enjoying myself. Shouldn't that be enough? No. The truth is, it should be enough, but oftentimes it isn't. Oftentimes it definitely is not enough. That makes me sad to think about, too. But I have those days where just liking what I do doesn't seem like it's enough. worked a long time to be able to create art in the way I do. Not every piece I make comes out the way I intended. But it's still all something that's building on top of another thing. The skills I've learned. The time I put in. This is all passion and joy and sometimes that's all it is. It's passion and joy, but shouldn't we be allowed to say that's actually enough? It doesn't need to be more. You know, it doesn't really take a lot for me to make a lot of progress on this painting. Like, all of this, as it is, wow. Like, this is, I should be amazed at what I've managed to do. But there's still a lot left to be done. I think my fingernails have dried enough that I can put a little more white on them. Oh. Truth be told, I know I should definitely be happier with what I can make, with what I can do. That's just not always the way things work out. We don't always end up in that position where what we're doing and what we're making and what we can accomplish brings us the satisfaction that it should. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I also think I need to make it more specific what I mean. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that, you know, we don't always end up just really happy with what we can do. Because if we're not happy, that gives us something to strive to improve. And that's something that happens to me. I just get stuck in this like moment where it's like, oh, okay, I gotta get better. I gotta do more. I gotta be better at this. I have to improve upon myself. And shouldn't we all want in some way to improve upon ourselves? To do something more? To be something more? I know I'm saying a lot of different things right now. And I know some of them counteract other things that I've said right now. I know that it doesn't make sense to want more for yourself, but also to be like, I'm allowed not to be happy with what I've made. But this is part of the whole little conundrum I'm in. And this is a conundrum. This is also me babbling, which I do a lot with all of you, you know. We babble and we talk and things happen and then they don't, and we get lost and found. And by the way, I'm really enjoying putting like layer after layer on this hair. This is a whole lot of fun. Like, this is giving it more depth and more interest, and like even with the skin, like the more I build it up over time, the more interesting it is. And the more I do, the more interesting it is. We're just constantly progressing forward. Constantly. I need to let this all sit for a moment, as I think. So one of the things I've done, and I'm going to explain this really quick. So I added in this dark area here with the phthalo blue, and then with the amber brown I added in down here some darkness. You have an arm that kind of disappears. It's not complete. But this is because this is someone who's going to be lying in tall grass. So that's why there's all the green already in the background. So one of the last things that I'm going to be doing as I move forward is I'm going to be obscuring a lot of the form with all this kind of ground growth, this foliage and this grass and everything. So, you know, some of the proportions might be off here and some things might look a little funny, but it's because this is a person who's fallen into tall grass. They're laying in the tall grass, and I'm going to emphasize that as I go further, as grass is just kind of going to be streaked up around them. In some ways, I think that this painting would have been really nice to do in oil, but unfortunately for me, I'm just not a very decent oil painter. You know, that's just not one of my skills. And that's not a bad thing. We don't need to be able to do everything. And I know this is just kind of coming back around to what I was saying before, you know. Yeah, and I'm putting a bunch of white in here right now. This white and just mixing right into the pre-existing wet paint because it's going to be worked in as highlighting. You know, and I'm sure you can see the way that kind of pops everything out a little. And in the hair, I've also included the phthalo blue, which I'm going to come back in and do a little bit more of. But I'm trying to create areas where things are just sun-kissed, which means mixing a little bit of white into my browns. Now that I've done that, actually, I can come back in with said brown. Same brush. And again, it's giving me deeper tone. So the hair right now is made of a number of different paints and pigments to really give it the best depth that I can. but also to really like bring everything home. That's one thing we want to do, is bring it all home. Make it all look as good as we can. So, getting a little more of that phthalo blue in here. I think this all is coming together really nicely. I realize I just added a lot in there, but don't worry, it all is going to make sense because we are not done. We're not done. And you're going to get to see that as I move forward with some of these choices. You know, there's a lot of choices to make. A lot of choices. And we cannot have, like, just matte, boring, like, nothingness. So sometimes I go back and, you know, we do a little mix and blend. And that's one of the things that's going on here right now. As part of that edge starts to get blended in. But also, as we bring a little more color and life to the face. And with just that little bit of extra depth, everything's going to pop so much more. So much more. So much more. One of the cats is saying, hey, why are you in there all by yourself? Why am I not in there with you? Sometimes kitties do not understand. So here's where I get a little, I don't know, extra artistic in my interpretations of things. But, you know, we're really building up. I know that right now, like, this seems like we're going backward, but we are not. This is all to increase the total depth of the color, shade, and interest in the hair. And you notice this is all wet. But best laid plans and all best laid plans. It's part of what's going on here. You know, a lot of planning, a lot of application, a lot of trying. I think in that trying, we're getting a little bit of succeeding. And if nothing else, I can just try again. If I decide I don't like the way I made something, I can just keep painting. Now I'm using a larger brush for this, specifically for the kind of effects it's giving as I lay in colors and things. It's allowing me to lay things in thick and also get a lot of different tones in here. And this is all, you know, wet blending. This is all a lot of I am having trouble thinking of all the words I want to say. But you'll notice when I wet blend in the phthalo blue, it starts to get really knocked down. Like it's there, but it's not everything that's there. So one of the things I'm doing though is I'm making sure that like the hair is kind of splayed out. I'm going to work some of the white into there again, because I don't want anything to be like really flat or colorless or textureless. In fact, I want lots of thick, living color. And I think that's pretty good for that right now. I've just added so much to the hair. I don't know how much is even going to be visible on camera. I know that was a lot. We're going to do more, but one of the things I need to do is let this set and dry. As soon as that is set and dried, there's going to be like these brush strokes and textures under here, which will make it easier for me to put extra color over top of that. Every step in a painting like this, there's a lot of steps. Just like I've put the grass and the green and the yellow in like over and over, I need to kind of I don't need to. Let me correct that language. I want to make sure that this has a certain feel when I'm done. And part of that feel that I want it to have is something that is specifically very peaceful. Very peaceful. I want it to feel like a slice of home. Now, whether or not it's actually doing that, I can't say. I don't know. I don't know if this is having the effect that I want. But I have ideas. And in those ideas, I'm going to play around and dig deep. Get creative. I mean, there's a lot of creative choices in here already. And one thing I'm actually going to do for the background really quick is I'm just going to take a little angle brush and I'm going to take a little bit of magenta and this, you know, won't be much of anything right now, but this will add a little bit of color later on. a little depth because I have a lot of really bright colors down here. So I'm actually just taking some of this magenta and just using this angle brush. I'm just putting some into where my tall grass will be. And that's just going to be adding some more depth later on. So there we go. That's all I needed for that. We've made a whole lot of progress. I have to let this dry because with this big painting and with this particular style that I'm working through, you know, I don't want to overdo it. I also don't want to ruin it. I realized that this summer, so far, I've been doing a lot shorter streams. You know, that is something that we are going to try to correct once we get closer to the fall and the winter. But, you know, we're having fun. I'm having fun. And I'm going to continue to bring you fun streams as often as I can. And I'm going to continue to bring you good times as often as I can. And I'm going to continue to bring you your Saturday night as often as I can. And though we'll have days where there's shorter streams and days where there's longer streams, we will ultimately have a balance of creative forces. So just with a few more strokes of paint in the hair, I've blended through. It's starting to take that multi-textural, multi-dimensional look again. All of this is going to take bleeding forever. I kind of wish I could stream every day. Do you want to know how you could help me best as I continue to create artwork for you? If you want to help out me and then also, increase the amount of arts available to people, do yourself a favor. Do me a favor. Make sure that you are following me, subscribing, wherever you are. Make sure that that is part of something you do for both of us. So you can find me on Twitch at Your Saturday Night. You can find me on Instagram as Your Saturday Night. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on YouTube. The channel is Your Saturday Night. And you can find me so many places. So, that's going to be kind of my conclusion for the day. I know, 50-minute stream, but it's summer. I'm doing what I can to bring goodness to all of you and also to share art. So, no matter where you joined me from today, I would like to thank you tremendously. Tremendously, I would like to thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me for these kinds of streams. Thank you for being you. Be excellent, my friends. When the weather starts to cool down again, these streams will get longer, but until then, I will join you as much as I can. And whether you're watching this now or on the replay, let's have some thoughts. Let's come up with some ideas. If you have a good idea for a name for this painting, I would love to hear it. I need to correct something before we go, because I've just been looking at this and I'm like, I don't like that. sometimes that's what happens. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I better go, but let me just fix this one thing really quick. And these are going to be the last brush strokes I put on this painting today. But when I join you again, we will paint more. Oh, I'm already looking at that being like, I like that more. And all I've done is pulled some of the harshness out of it. Blend it a little more naturally. Alright. Thank you everyone for being here. Take care. Be excellent. I will join you again as soon as I am able to. But if you'd like to see more of these streams, or you just want more of these streams to happen, let me know. Make sure you're following me. Make sure you're subscribing. And please share these art streams with other people. But until I see you again, take care. Be excellent. You're all amazing.